Hello. In this video, I'm going to talk about some of the more difficult aspects of mapping TradingView or connecting it to Jackrabbit Relay and then connecting that to your exchange. TradingView symbols can often be cryptic and complicated to decipher. In following the installation guide, you'll notice I had a program that I used called TV2 Exchange. That creates a symbol map file that gives Relay the information it needs to communicate to both TradingView and to your exchange. Kborn asked a question in the support server about how to figure out what those symbols are. And that is a good question because, unfortunately, TradingView does not make that very easy. For example, here is the KuCoin only listing of BTC. As you can see, there are a lot of different variations, and knowing specifically which one is futures or spot can be tedious. Now there are some hints. If I can find my mouse. There are some hints, but those hints aren't very obvious when you're working with trying to figure out what symbol to actually give Relay to process your order. There's a lot of little shortcuts I've provided in the Relay to make that job easier. So let's get into some of those and actually try to figure out how to map TradingView to KuCoin futures. So let's go to the VPS and let's actually look at the futures market. Here is a list, and I got that list simply by this command. The list markets command, KuCoin futures, and then the account name. Now the less command, all that does is just pause the screen so that you can read it without it scrolling by quickly. So let's start out with what we have here. And thanks again to Kborn, I modified the command to make it a little bit easier. And there are some nuances in this that we will need to discuss a little later on. But for now, let's just look at the basic structure of the unified command versus the cryptic symbols that are provided. The first column, this is the unified asset name, and it is done in such a way that it makes sense on how the asset is actually traded. For example, let's take a really odd pair. ./USD : dot. Well, dot is the base currency or the asset you want to purchase. You are purchasing it with US dollar. But, and this is why the unified format really shows up the best. When you settle your contract, the payment you receive is in dot. So you're purchasing dot, but when you settle and sell your contract, it's paying you back in dot, even though you originally purchased it with USD. So that's what this information is after the colon. What currency is your contract settled with? As you can see with this one, GRT or Tron, TRX, the contract is settled in USDT, the same currency as the quote. But here, the contract is settled in the same currency as the base. But now let's look at the cryptic name. Here is the cryptic name of what that is, .USDM. It says nothing about the settlement. And that could be a problem if you're expecting your contract to settle with the US dollar, and you actually find out that you've purchased it and sold it only for it to settle back into DOT. Of course, here is the market that the asset belongs to. So when you do your market type, that is what you put in market type. Here's the price you pay when you purchase it. Now this is at the moment. When you run this program again, it will give you a new set of numbers. Here is the spread you will pay, or what the market makers earn. And here is the the selling price at the moment. So as you can see, this particular asset is roughly 5 micropips for a maker price, whereas this particular asset is 10 pips for a market maker price. Now I know this seems confusing, and that's why the unified format was chosen, to make it so that you know exactly where your money is going. For example, here is another one. You're buying Ethereum with the US dollar to settle your contract in Ethereum. So there's a lot of different ways that this information provides much more clarity to your actual trading. So when you work with Relay, you will not be using the exchange or TradingView cryptic symbol. You will be using the unified symbol. And that is really slightly bit of a limit, because there's more to that we're going to get into right now. First, let's start this back up, and you will see it settle in a little bit. For now, let's go back to TradingView and talk about the actual order information. Now, I have a chart on the screen, and I have my alerts placed. Let's actually take an alert. Okay, here is our alert. Now, as I said with the TradingView symbols and that map, there's a little more to it than just using the uniformed or unified symbol. We can actually take a shortcut and simply use TradingView's macros. Tongue-tied there. So the TradingView macro for your ticker is just curly brace, ticker, curly brace. These macros get filled in at the time that the alert is generated. So you never have to worry about what the actual symbol is when you have your TradingView being remapped for you. So you can use the ticker macro to always figure out what ticker you're using. And this is great if you want to set up 40 or 50 alerts at once and let Relay's max assets only trade 5 different coins at once. You don't have to worry about being overloaded or extended, because it will make sure that you stay at only that limit, but capitalize specifically with a large number of alerts simultaneously. But there is one other thing that you have to put in your order or in your exchange configuration that explicitly tells Relay to remap the symbol. And that is the remap symbol element. If you put it in your order, it tells Relay that this only applies to this specific order. If you put this in your exchange configuration, then you tell Relay that it applies to every order on that exchange account name. In this case, the account name is Sandbox. You can go either way, and it really doesn't matter, but you don't need it in both places. Either or. I tend to use different strategies on the same account, so I have a habit of putting it in the order itself. But if all you use is TradingView to trade with, then it makes sense to put it in the exchange config and not have extra clutter in your order. So we have the basis of being able to send large amounts of information without having to actually know every single ticker name. That is critical. So now let's go back to the VPS, and we see what the less command has done on the screen. It has loaded the screen, and now I can scroll up and down, searching through the various assets at the moment. This is what the less command does. You don't have to use it, but if you want to actually be able to spend time studying price action at the moment, then it makes the job easier. Now let's move to some test configurations. Let's take a look at a KuCoin futures buy example. You'll see that I'm not remapping the symbol here. Instead, I'm just using the unified asset name directly. Now this gets translated appropriately to the proper exchange asset automatically by Relay. And this is what your message would look like on TradingView. Now you also notice that I am specifically using leverage. And you can set your leverage on KuCoin futures appropriately the same way. And I specifically am looking to purchase 1 TRX. That is what the base word means. I want 1 at base value. If you were to use quote, then it would be 1 USDT of TRX, which would probably be 198 to 205 TRX at the moment. Something like that with the translation. But it figures out all that for you. And of course, the market. We know from the list markets command that this market is swap. Now let's look at another example of a payload message that is more complicated. Let's look at the digital signal remover, which is built into TradingView. Excuse me, it's built into Relay because of TradingView. Now this message looks a little more complicated, as you can see. I've added comments into the payload to make it easier. You can do this all you want and the system doesn't care. You just have to make sure that each element is unique. For example, comment 1, comment 4, comment 2. These are just for your own information. So right here is everything you need to communicate to Relay directly. And you'll notice the special feature here. This is using Relay's exchange list system. That is, you can couple different exchanges, virtual and real, in one line. And you'll notice that the account is identically matched. So DSR, Sandbox account, KuCoin to the main account. And I will show an example of why this works and is needed. But for now, this is what you do to couple the virtual exchanges to the real exchanges. And it can be used on a wide variety of situations, and it can get very complex. Again, you see where I am using the TradingView symbol directly, and I am forcing the remap. So I'm telling Relay I want it to remap TradingView's symbol that I have explicitly put into the system into what is acceptable for its own functionality, which would be the unified format. Now, as you saw from the previous map on TradingView itself, where I showed the alert that had the ticker prices. For example, here, this was brace, brace, close, brace, brace. This was actually the ticker symbol, or the ticker macro. So what we have is literally the after effect of TradingView converting the macro to match the chart. And you'll see here, I had open brace time, close brace. And then I had various symbols here, like plot 0, plot 1, so forth. So you see exactly how the macros really work and why they are so much a blessing to use when you're transferring information from TradingView to Relay and then it to your exchange. These macros help you make large quantities of alerts quickly because you don't have to hard write every single alert by hand. This is invaluable for macro generating programs that allow you to generate 50 or 100 different alerts in a matter of minutes on TradingView, because you can simply give it a blueprint template and then it can mass produce this alert for 100 different assets. Now I'm going to specifically talk about the need for the duplicate signal remover in TradingView and in Relay for TradingView specifically. We've saw two cases of the macros, the expanded message where the macros have been filled in, and now we see the impact of that from the DSR virtual exchange. Here we have a series of payloads and the information that the DSR tracks on your system for your trades. Now, you'll notice it's tracking two numbers along with the entire payload, either through misfiring or caching, and I'm not sure which, to be honest. Maybe a little of both. sometimes you end up with an alert being sent twice. Here is an example. The first alert came in, and here is the recipe that it used. Then, literally a short time later, that very same alert came in again. And the reason it knows this is because of the numbers that get tracked. And you can see that this alert actually came in a large number of times, where it was repeated. Now, is this a malfunction, or is this something else going on? That's a question that I have never been able to determine, and these approaches that is shown in these payloads were specifically built never to retrace and use only historic data. So there should never be a misfire or a repeat. And yet, time and time again, over the last 2 years of research, I have had this information happen, tracked it, and produced it extensively. Now, this would cause a big problem if these alerts were allowed to make purchases. This is explicitly what the DSR is built to prevent. Duplicate payloads are not allowed to be processed, so you won't end up blowing up your account or your budget because of these unwanted misfires. In this particular case, we can see okay, let's see if we can find it. Here is the first one. So the very top one here, this is the original. And look how many times this very same exact message was sent. So we see the time is 22:06. Every time the time matches and the accumulator tracking numbers match. But yet look at when the messages were actually received by the system. So we have the original, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if this had been allowed to run on its own, it would have purchased $80 worth of this asset without your permission, when you only wanted $10 perhaps. And this is the big problem that does exist. And here you see that the last message shows the accumulators changing. Every Jackrabbit TV module, and that's what this uses, has been specifically built only to change the accumulators when the actual alert is signals. It's a deliberate proof of method approach to make sure that the best and most reasonable position is purchased based upon the algorithm. These purchases are not based upon the algorithm, and that's why the accumulators are never bumped up. The DSR is built into Relay. It's automatically there. It's free. All you have to do is use it. This is probably one of the biggest headaches of working with TradingView that you will ever encounter. And it took me a year to actually figure this out. Building the solution was rather simple, but trying to figure out why it was happening when I knew for a fact that the approaches did not retrace or repaint was really a challenge. Now, it is important to understand that when you use the DSR, it does cause a slight delay or lag in the message processing. For example, a lot of my test results show a 1-second delay between the processing and moving back to the order system. But that 1-second delay just saved $70 on this trade. That really is the most critical point that you can run into with TradingView. You will get retracement and repainting through these misfired signals, even if your algorithm does not misfire or does not repaint. Now, if you're using a TradingView strategy, even with historical data, TradingView explicitly says that it is prone to repainting. This prevents those kinds of mistakes. Now we are back in TradingView, and this is exactly what happens and what can be a very big problem because of unwanted signals. This is why using the DSR is so important, and why planning and carefully looking at your alerts is important. TradingView is a wonderful resource. It's a charting platform, though, not a trading platform. It is up to the trading program, or in this case, the receiver of this information, which is Relay, to process it in a meaningful way and guarantee that your trade occurs properly. Now, as you can see here, this is using a TradingView strategy, and the actual action is driven by the strategy, which will be buy and sell. And you can see that it uses the TradingView macros, and those macros are filled in automatically. So let's recap, and let's actually look at some of the more intricate nuances. Jackrabbit Relay uses a unified approach for the assets and symbols. The cryptic message is what TV to exchange fixes for you. And you only have to do that command once, as I demonstrated in the installation video. So just like the installation video, we're going to update the map file. That's it, all done. So now it takes this crazy information and sorts it so that you have a meaningful representation for your alerts. Or you can simply use the ticker macro and not even deal with this mess. But be sure you install and update your system. Now, updating it is the same exact way as the initial install. From the GitHub folder, simply run install. It will sit here for a few minutes thinking, and then it will go out and make sure you have all of the latest updated software, including any changes to Relay itself. Most of the time, you do not need to restart your servers. And I usually try to make it a deliberate point to post inside the support server itself when you need to do a full restart of Relay. But as you can see, all of the symbol maps are automatically updated for you after you initially make the first one. But from here, there's one more thing you have to do. Update your place orders. For all of the exchanges that you use. If you don't use that many exchanges, that's fine. If you do use multiple exchanges, be sure to update every one of them. Check your spelling, and we're done. So enjoy using TradingView, and it really is a wonderful charting package as long as you are aware of the limitations that it offers. Please feel free to leave me any questions. Let me know if there's anything I missed in this particular video that I should have covered more thoroughly. And thank you again to Kborn for the questions regarding the difficulties between mapping between TradingView and the exchange. Until next time.